Welcome to a session on Introduction to Jamboard. I'm Vicki Miles. I teach at Middleborough High School math.
I'm Christy Goldman, and I teach remotely for the Mary Kay Good School 4th grade.
And so Christy and I both have discovered Jamboard is a great tool to use with our remote students. If I were face-to-face with students, I would still be using Jamboard. And what Jamboard is, it is advertised as a digital whiteboard for the cloud. And it was developed a few years ago or several years ago by Google. It is perfect for making annotations and collaborating with others. And it's free. It's also very easy to assign. And in a way, it feels like Google Slides. So you might wonder, why would I use something different if I already use slides? Well, you know what? It's quite user-friendly. There are just a few tools, not an overwhelming amount of tools. And the students tend to really like the Jamboard.
Absolutely. So Jamboard's really popular across grade levels. We've talked to some of our colleagues, and kids at the elementary level and below love interacting with jams, and kids up at the high school love it as well. So I wanted to share today some examples of Jamboards that have actually been used. So these are some of the Jamboards I've created. I've included some screenshots of what Vicki created, and we will also talk about other versions of Jamboard that you can find for free online if you are not super tech savvy into making your own type template. So one of my favorite ways to use Jamboard is using it for graphic organizers. I have screenshots here of 2 math graphic organizers I made. One was for finding equivalent fractions, just to help students organize that thinking. And the other was when we were completing the area model for division. My students were having a really hard time digitally tracking that. So I made the graphic organizer seen here that shows kind of just where to place those numbers. And students can write right on it or insert with text boxes or stickies, whatever they like. Another great way to use a Jamboard is by creating anchor charts. So here's an anchor chart I used in my class about reading. So I inserted the picture of the anchor chart that I would have in the classroom setting on a big piece of paper virtually, and then had sticky notes where students could insert some of their thinking as they've read. And it's great to have this. You can create KWLs, you can have a parking lot, just creating that anchor spot for students to go to jot their thinking. Another way you can use a Jamboard is to create a digital workspace or an assignment. So this is what Vicki and I were kind of mentioning with, oh, I already use Google Slides. Why would I need Jamboard? So Jamboard's just another place where students can have different ways to interact, and it oftentimes feels really approachable to students. So this jam is a jam Vicki created that she might use with some of her students at the high school, and I filled in the answers for this slide. I used the drawing tool, some sticky notes to show my thinking. The last way you can use a Jamboard is when you're hosting your mini lessons and you as the teacher need a place to jot your thinking and instruction. So here's an example of a guided writing lesson I was able to complete with my students using Jamboard. We were learning a strategy for responding to expository text, and I was able to show and talk through my guided thinking as I was writing. So it showed students an example and was a great anchor for the rest of the lesson.
Okay, so there are some simple tools, but it's still important that we experiment with the tools and know what they are before we use this with students. The tools are always on the left-hand side of any frame. Frames are what we call slides in a Jamboard. And the tools are all shown here, but I think it might be kind of fun, Christy, to show how if we can make a live collaborative whiteboard right on Google Meet.
Great.
So what
I'll stop presenting.
Oh, you're going to stop presenting.
And then we can present the board.
Okay.
To show what we're doing.
So I'll present the board then?
Great.
Okay. So when you're ready, I will take over that and I will show how I I think I'm going to do my whole screen. Okay. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and start a new whiteboard, and I'm on Google Meet. It's one of the tools that are here. So I'm going to start a whiteboard. It's creating this jam, and anybody who's in this call is going to be an editor. And so I'm going to go ahead and hit send right now, and it's going to open up for Christy, and it'll open up for me as well. And I can see that Christy has just joined the Jamboard. So just like any Google collaborative tool, you can see their icon and you know that they're on there. And you can see when your students hop on, which is super nice. And I have just one frame right now. As I go to the right, I'm going to add more frames. So what I think I'm going to do is just, I'm going to set a background, and I'll just make a nice color. And maybe I'll just say to students, welcome. And we can use this as a way to get to know each other. I can change my color. I can make this center justified, and I can just say welcome. All right, so what I'm going to do is ask Christy and anybody who's on the call to please grab a Post-it note. Now, on the left, you're going to hover. You'll see the word pen, you'll see eraser, select, and then there's sticky notes. So grab a sticky note, any color, pick the color that you like. And on that color, would you please write the season that is your favorite season out of the year? And then hit save and drag it to a new space on the board. I think we spend too much time together, Christy.
Here, I'll switch to green so that we at least have different colors.
That is funny. All right. So now we've done that, and we show students how easy it is to just maybe resize your Post-it note. You can make it smaller. What I'd like to do next is underneath your Post-it note, grab the pen tool. When you click on pen, you're going to see that there are different options. There's the thin pen, there's a marker, a highlighter, and a paintbrush. Maybe I'll use the marker, but you can use whatever you'd like. And pick a color that's going to show up against this blue background. And let's have you draw a picture that reminds you of this season that's your favorite season.
Awesome. I'll get started. I wanted to mention, when you're using the marker tool, you have the option of using your mouse or your trackpad if you have that available to you, or if your students are using a Chromebook that has a touch screen, it works with touch screen as well. So if you had that or an iPad, that would work just as great.
So I don't know about you, but I love to garden, and I am definitely looking forward to planting some things and seeing some things grow. Absolutely. And are you a boater, Christy?
I'm a beach lover, but I felt more confident in showing a boat. But yes, I hope to be out on the water this summer.
Sounds good to me. Now, so we've had some practice with these different pens, and maybe there's a place in your diagram that you feel like you could erase, something that went too far or something that wasn't perfect. So find the eraser tool. One down, and then just erase whatever it is that you think wasn't up to par.
There we go.
And now notice it stays on that tool. And so if you want to do anything else, like let's say I wanted to resize my welcome, I'm going to click on the selection arrow tool. Why don't you do that, Christy? And you and I are both looking at the same Jamboard, but I'm using my laser tool just to point out that's my text box. So Christy, why don't you grab the selection arrow and resize it, make it a little bit bigger.
Sure can.
All right, super nice. And I think what I'd like to do is now add just a border to everything that's on here. And to add that border, it's the circle. You have different shapes. I'm going to do the rounded rectangle. I find more friendly than the 90-degree rectangles. And I'm going to just drag it over. And I'm going to make it transparent inside. And I think I'll use the green. Nope, I want transparent, but I want a green border. Ah, that looks kind of nice. So there's that. And then finally, Christy, show us, why don't you point out parts of your diagram using your laser tool to,
Sure.
Yeah, and that way we can see you using that laser.
So here's my sticky note where I wrote summer. Can you see it? And over here, I drew a boat. Underneath the boat, I drew some waves where my boat is sitting.
Great job. All right, fantastic. So, so this is just something that we can collaborate during a Google Meet, and we just really just wanted to do that to show you that capability as well as these tools. I think I hit on all the tools, right? We're good?
Absolutely.
All right, so I'm going to stop sharing.
Great. And if you're watching this video on YouTube or on a playback and you want to pause here and open up your own jam to play around with the tools, this would be a great time to click pause. We're going to keep recording for those of you who have come back and clicked play to see the rest of our presentation about Jamboard. We just finished going over the tools. And so the next thing we wanted to touch base about is templates. So one of the major benefits of using Jamboard is that it's super popular with educators teaching remotely and in person everywhere right now. So Jamboard really started to gain popularity when classrooms were heading towards Google Meet for remote learning because it's so easily accessed by students and teachers in the G Suite and through the Google Meet. So there are a lot of educators who share templates for Jamboards for free on their websites. And we love that. We love getting a free resource that we can use in our classroom quickly and easily. So here on these shared slides for the Middleborough Public Schools, I've linked just a couple of awesome educators who I have found that have shared free templates where you can go make a copy of their template and use a background they already created to propose a social emotional question for your students to get them ready to learn, to have a graphic organizer, all kinds of things. So some great resources that I've found are Erin Roberts on Twitter, mrspark.org, and also ditchthattextbook.org has great resources where you can go and download a template to get started with Jamboard, just to get your feet wet and start engaging your students. And you don't have to start from scratch, and you don't have to be a graphic designer to have an awesome looking jam to share with your class. Did you want to talk about sharing your jam, Vicki?
Yeah, let's do that. It probably would have been a good idea to show that. But we share a Jamboard the way we share any Google file. And I don't know, should I present right now?
Sure, let's show it.
Okay. All right, I will present my window. All right, so here we have our jam. And let's say that I wanted to put this, send this link to somebody who is absent.
We can't see it yet.
Ah, maybe I'm on the wrong. Oh, thank you. Got it.
There we go. Now we can see it. Perfect.
All righty. So if I wanted to share this with a student maybe who is absent, you look for the share button as always, and here are your options. We are going to, we will share this so that anybody with the link can edit, because we want to see what they have to say.
Good. So
now that's
Vicki
viewer.
changed it to, right. Anyone with the link, and then we want to adjust it to edit so that your students don't have to request access.
There you go. So then I will copy that link and it's ready to go, and then I can just share it with them. There was something else I wanted to actually go over, Christy, and that was the background. Remember, you had
Yes.
found it very helpful to find a fixed background.
Yes.
So what I'm doing right now is I'm actually working on something for my students. I'm working on transformational geometry, and I don't want them fiddling around with the background. So there is an option up here, set background. And earlier I showed you how to make it a different color. And that's all nice and that's all wonderful. But let's say I wanted to make my background an image. I'm going to click image. And then I can browse to any of these images. And let's say I wanted a coordinate plane, one that's not going to be movable by students. Then here it is, and you'll see that I can't move things. So that if I had asked students to, say, graph some points, now they can graph the points and drag them to different locations on the coordinate plane without worrying about moving the background. So I did want to point that out. While I'm here, Christy, is there something else that I should be showing regarding sharing?
I think that's it. You want to click share. Make sure that it is anyone with the link can edit for sharing out, because otherwise your students may have to request access and you'll get a lot of emails in your inbox about that, and you'll have to go adjust the settings. But we're familiar with that with the other Google apps we've been using for most of the year. So that's what we need for sharing. And after you collect that link, you can share it in more than one place. So you may want to share it to your class live on Google Meet. You may want to share it to your students on Google Classroom. If you're an educator working at the lower elementary level in Middleborough, you may want to share the link on Seesaw. And so you can find quick tutorials about putting a link, but any way that you would share a slides or a doc with your students on Seesaw, you can do the same thing with a Jam. Awesome. So moving forward, if you'd like to pause the video now and go head to Jamboard and try out your skills making your own jam, this would be a great time to pause for those watching this back on YouTube to go check out Jamboard if you're feeling like you want to test it out. You can also use this time to go to the ditchthattextbook.org website found here, where you can download some templates to keep in your Google Drive for later use if you are watching this on YouTube.
So I guess once we explore the tool, we would probably want to find out, what do you think about Jamboard? Is this something that your students would enjoy? Is this something that you think would, as Christy said, make whatever task it is feel less daunting for the students? There's a fun factor involved, and so we'd love to see what you make. We do have some office hours, and the office hours are in 2 days, this coming Thursday. Christy's going to handle the first hour from 3:30 to 4:30, and I'm on deck 4:30 to 5:30 p.m., and we'd love for you to drop in.
And if you have any questions about Jamboard, you'd like to chat more about the tool, Vicki and I are both super enthusiastic about using Jamboard, and we're happy to show you tips and tricks that we figured out both for remote instruction, some suggestions for in-person instruction, because this tool is really awesome to use across the board and is great because it's right there in our G Suite and our students are familiar with how to use it. So
I just put a little plug in for Google Classroom too, for all the high school teachers and the middle school teachers. We assign it so that every student can have their own copy if you want it to be an individual assignment, or you can assign it through Google Classroom so that anybody with the link can edit. So that's just another nice feature.
Absolutely. And we both have great examples that we could share anecdotally with you if you're wondering, well, I just don't know how it would work out trying to get all the kids in one spot. It can seem a little overwhelming, but there are some awesome strategies you can use. So feel free to reach out to either of us. Our emails are here on the screen. And if you're looking to come to office hours, you can find us on the Google Meet by using the nickname Jamboard. So we hope to see friends come out to meet with us about Jamboard on Thursday. Hopefully this gets you excited to get started. And thank you for watching our workshop, Introduction to Jamboard.